how do I say this? What are the philosophical presuppositions of an effective apologetics, and what do you think the role is of philosophy to apologetics for that matter?
Well, I think it's important that people are realists. And when I say realists, I mean realists about epistemology or about knowledge. Okay, so they think that there is an external world outside of our minds that is objectively there, and we can discover it and we can learn things about it, and our thoughts can represent it or correspond to it. I think it's important that they're realists about metaphysics, which means that they believe that there really are kinds of things like objectively present in the world, and the kind of thing that something is determines like what's suitable for it and what's appropriate or fitting for it. um, and then related to that, realists about morality. So they believe that there are objective truths about what is right and wrong, and what people should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So if you are a realist in those ways, I think that Christianity is going to come pretty easy. I think Christianity is a pretty natural fit for somebody who thinks that way, because Christianity does a great job of explaining how the world is that way and how we are that way as knowers and as moral beings. Um, Christianity harmonizes with realism very well, and it's kind of hard to understand how realism would be true without Christianity, or without at least certainly without theism, but I think without Christianity too. Um, so if you're a realist about these things, then I don't think it's that difficult to see that Christianity is quite plausible, and see that Christianity makes a lot of sense, see that Christianity has a lot of explanatory power, and that it can answer a lot of questions that we have about why the world is the way it is, and why we are the way that we are. However, if somebody's not a realist, then Christianity is going to probably seem a lot less likely to be true to them, or less, it's going to have less to recommend it, because that natural fit's not going to be there between their assumptions about how the world is and what Christianity says is true, right? So if somebody is an anti-realist, and by that I mean that they're basically a subjectivist, they think that truth is pretty much in the eye of the beholder when it comes to certainly when it comes to like aesthetics, or when it comes to morality, but even when it comes to facts about the physical world, right? They might think that also is really just dependent on someone's subjective impression, or interpretation of things. All right, so somebody who thinks like a postmodernist or a Nietzschean or someone like that, they're going to have a really hard time seeing anything of value in Christianity, because Christianity doesn't line up at all with the way that they conceive of the world, right? There's not a world there that needs to be explained in the way that Christianity explains it, right? So there's an issue there, I think. Um, People like that are, if you want to use like a medical analogy, they're in a lot worse state. Okay, they're very unhealthy. Okay, if we're going to look at it from a philosophical or from a cognitive or an ethical point of view, I'm going to say those people are very unhealthy. Spiritually, they're unhealthy too, of course. But I just think like from a philosophical point of view, they have some very mistaken ideas, and those people need a lot more attention and a lot more care to get them to see things from a Christian point of view, or to see the truth in Christianity. Um, First of all, I think you need to point out that their anti-realism, or their subjectivism, their skepticism, that these things are not tenable. And I think the best way to do that usually is just to point out that these people can't live consistently according to these beliefs, right? When you think that truth is totally up to the individual, or it's all in the eye of the beholder, or everything's relative, when you actually get it out in the world and you're living your life, you realize that you do need to believe that some things are objective, and some things are out there, and they're subject independent, and they're external to you, and it's not all a matter of opinion. It's not all a matter of interpretation. You can't live consistently thinking that it is. Not only is it self-contradictory, right, to think that it's true that there are no truths. I mean, everybody has harped on that before, but um, you just can't go through the world thinking that there's no such thing as justice, for example, and yet still interacting with people and living your life in a way that leads to positive outcomes. So um, I just think that that way of thinking, it's obviously very prevalent, but it tends to be superficial. It tends to be shallow. Um, Most people, they pay it lip service because they hear it so much, but they don't live it out consistently because I don't think anybody could. So it's like, the college student thinks everything's relative, but at the same time, they have very strong opinions about political issues, or about moral issues. So they're very inconsistent, right? Very self-contradictory in what they're saying and what they're thinking. Um, and one of the things that apologists has to do with people like that, I think the first thing they have to do is just kind of try to heal that inconsistency, right? Try to show that there's a real problem with thinking about the world in these terms, because it doesn't allow an integrated perspective on things. It doesn't allow you to be consistent in how you live your life and how you think about things and how you articulate your opinions or your viewpoints. Um, Anti-realism doesn't really allow for that, in my view. So that's the first step, is just to kind of get people, I think, who have adopted that kind of postmodern skeptical relativism to realize that that actually doesn't make a lot of sense, and that you can't live that. You can't live according to those beliefs. And once you've done that, then I think it's possible to move them forward, and to get them to kind of see how a view that does take objective reality seriously, a view that does take morality seriously, how is such a view um, is made sense of by Christianity. So it's all about approaching people where they are, understanding where they need to go to get to the point where Christianity is actually going to start explaining things that they think need to be explained. You have to move them incrementally to that point, because I think a lot of people are so, lost and so confused about things, that the world as they see it is not the kind of thing that really needs an explanation, because they just think it's absurd. They think there's no like intelligibility to it. There's no order to it. And you need to point out or show them to the best, of your ability, that the world actually does evince a lot of order, and the world does have, it is intelligible. It does conform, or our thoughts, do conform to reality. And if we want to live successfully, we need to be objective, or have beliefs about these things being objective. So that's what I would say about that. It's about figuring out what someone needs to believe, so that Christianity then can start being the answer to their questions. They need to start asking the right questions first, though.